I'm Mark Healy from 6 Degrees, and I'm here to tell you the story of Escala.
Thank you.
Back in 2014, we were approached by the MAB Corporation to go into a limited competition with some other architects to do a tower in the Docklands. We were successful in the competition, and that started off on this journey that delivered the project we know as Escala. It's only recently finished. It was a bit of an epic process. Anyway, there's kind of one main idea of what we did with the Escala, and it really was about trying to bring the city to the Docklands. The site itself, it's an island site. It's on the northern part of Docklands, NewQuay. We've got 4 frontages. It's slightly irregular. The brief was for a 19-level building that had 178 apartments and 2,500 square metres of commercial and retail space. So it's a mixed use. It's not a straight commercial. We're mixed use, really, but there isn't a mixed use category. Anyway, it was pitched as an investor product. Right, we're not on the water, it hasn't got the sexy promenade, we're one back, we're kind of built in by other buildings, but it's still, we saw some real opportunity in terms of great solar access, and we could pick up some views to the water and through to the city through some gaps in Nonda's earlier work that was nicely placed for us. As you guys know, the flavour of Docklands at the time was this kind of language, and really talking about bringing the city to Docklands. You know, this is really where we started and where we tried to head. And it was sort of pulling apart and trying to understand what we really like about the city. What gives it that vibrancy? You know, can you pick up a chunk of Flinders Lane and Collins Street or a piece of another city and drop it into Docklands in that language that we discussed before? Anyway, this is what we ended up building. So the main strategy, this is an overlay plan of the podium, and a lot of energy went into the podium saying, okay, why don't we kind of try and produce a building that presents as 6 different standalone pieces of architecture. You know, but really, hey, it's a car park skinned by other buildings. But how much use can we get in, and how much non-active frontage can we squeeze it down to? So strategies, it's all active apart from some of the service delivery down on the south. We put an east-west lane through the site because of what laneways give to cities and opportunities that I'll go into. That's open to the sky, and we also gave back the northeast corner for a small square, you know, a little piazza. And that's about picking up on desire lines near and through the site, to try and get some compression, get people together, and get a bit of life into Docklands. This is the first building. This is commercial office with retail and hospitality on the ground floor. The cafe's going in July. This is on the left, and this one here, it's not allocated yet in terms of, you know, shops. They're 2-story voids. With MAB, our client, they were sold as shells. Okay, so it's a commercial shell. You got service points, you know, basic heating and cooling, and there are options to put mezzanines in if you wanted it to increase floor area. So, you know, that's the kind of entry. The buildings are about, you know, this one's the brick one. This is the view from that square where it really comes down to a pedestrian scale. Things are brought down. There's a different level of craft as well. That's the view through that laneway. And that's really drawing on traditions in Melbourne and other cities of what we like in terms of expression of architectural diversity and materiality. But there's also very much the leaning towards craftsmanship. You know, but there's a mix. That's just, as you go around the building, the whole podium, this is, you know, they're expressed as different buildings, but they're all commercial use. The ground floor of the apartment building that presents here, this is all home office, small office, retail. This is another retail space that's earmarked for hospitality. As you go around, even, we tried to present, substations and gas meter rooms as discrete kind of smaller buildings in that language of a city. When you turn a corner, you go, you're presented with this kind of concrete panel and breeze block building that's really, it's all, again, small offices on the ground floor. You got the office and you got 2 stories of your residence above. It's kind of shop top living. It's not new, it's really old ideas, but the whole perimeter and through the lanes is kind of active. And here you can see what we're trying to do. Here's, one building, then there's a little curtain wall, mini office building, and then we've got the brick building again returning. And architecturally, there's a separator strip between the different types of buildings. We're using scale, modulation, kind of misalignment of facades, the geometry of the plan, and scale to try and, get it to present as different buildings. This is the laneway that we're back to. That even goes to that sort of tradition of Melbourne. You've got all your decorative facade and it wraps around the side, whether it's a Victorian era building or not. And then you get to the laneway and there's the value management land of, sewer stacks and no detail. Well, we picked up on that and ran with it because we didn't have a lot of money relatively for this building, so we had to be careful where we allocated it. So it's kind of embracing some of those ideas. So, there it is. This is the commercial foyer. An opportunity. It's a really tactile, crafted experience. Things like the steel frame windows that run through all that ground floor, the stained glass work. These are people we've worked with for decades, and it was about taking that kind of craftsmanship to a $100 million project and scaling it up. There's stained glass and stuff throughout the whole residential side, but it's really consistent through the commercial on the ground. 1 minute. So here's that's a cutaway render of the commercial space and these opportunities. This is what was delivered, kind of these shells. This is what we talk about in sort of bandwidth at 6 degrees. You can have a core that's 19 stories of jump form, just leave concrete ceilings, concrete columns, but we've got hand-blown glass. We've got a little marble kind of refined seat, machined objects like the lift doors and the surround, and exposed services. The people in the office get the pool, the garden, the gym, all those kind of things, access, and an EOT that, again, same language, or same treatment, a Besser brick wall, an exposed core, running the bluestone through, but some delicate steel window and stained glass, and then exposed services and conduits and off-the-shelf racking. It's part of an approach to ensemble kind of architecture. And that is the story of Escala.